Hi there. I'm Smita Murthy, Managing Partner at Opencliff Partners. We're a product advisory and consulting firm. We provide product advisory and enable value creation throughout the product lifecycle for technology and tech-enabled businesses. We partner with investors and boards, founders and CEOs, product leaders and individuals, meeting them where they're at in the value creation process. This podcast series focuses on cross functional perspectives on what it takes to build successful products across domains and industries. I interview leaders from various functions with whom I've worked with to build and launch great products and the lessons we learned along the way. Today, I'm excited to host Rodel Alejo. Rodel is a seasoned product, marketing, and channel executive with experience driving growth and innovation at industry-leading organizations, all the way from startups to established firms such as Microsoft, McAfee, MXLogic, USA.net, and MCI. Rodel and I met when we were at McAfee. We'll talk more about that as we go along. Most recently, as Director of Partner Marketing at Microsoft, Rodel was responsible for leading the strategic marketing strategy for modern work, AI, and security across the Americas for the channel ecosystem of distribution, resellers, GSI, SIs, hosters, telcos, ISVs, and managed service partners. Previously, he spent nearly 20 years with McAfee in executive roles, leading the channel, product management, operations, professional services, and sales engineering for SaaS-based cybersecurity solutions, which is where we worked, and we'll talk about that. Rodel holds an MBA in International Business and a bachelor's degree in marketing from the University of Colorado, and certifications as a CISSP and a certified Scrum product owner. Rodel, so excited to reconnect and to get this conversation going.
Absolutely.
It's been a while. I fondly remember many things about our interactions, which we'll get into. But first of all, thank you for being on the show. And why don't you tell our audience a fun fact about yourself?
Thanks for the introduction, Smith. Aside from my professional career that you outlined there, a lifelong passion of mine revolves around volleyball. And I'm currently gearing up to play USA Volleyball Nationals this upcoming May.
Wow.
And competing with guys my age who are former collegiate players or Olympic players back in the day.
Wow.
So it's really cool to be playing at this level, and quite honestly, a blessing that our bodies can still take the court.
That is amazing. I didn't know that about you. I mean, I know you're like an outdoors person. We've talked about our passion for the mountains. And, you have a head start living in Colorado already at that altitude.
Sure.
So I didn't know about volleyball. Well,
good on you. And along those lines, I just did a marathon over the weekend down in New Mexico.
Wow. And, amazing.
So yeah, back at it.
That's awesome. More power to you. And I love it. I think we should just keep following our passions outside of work. As long as our bodies and our minds allow it. So more power to you. All right, let's just get right into it. So when I brought Rodel on as a guest, one of the things that I'm hoping we can share with our audience is a little bit more about your really deep experience with channel marketing and strategic partnerships, which I know when we worked together, you were deep into it. And I know your career has spanned many more functions, but perhaps we can focus on that aspect of it in this conversation. That would be fantastic. So let's start off by tell me about your role and your function when we worked together, and what is it that you remember most about our interaction?
I think, Smith, I've got some fond memories back when we were at a startup firm called MXLogic that got acquired by McAfee, and you were one of the key product leaders that we were working with to get our SaaS security solutions integrated into the McAfee stack to support those joint customers at the time. And not only was it a product integration, but it was also a comprehensive joint go-to-market program to expand our collective reach. So how do we plug into the sales mechanisms and the order process within McAfee to generate a pay-as-you-go model that was unfamiliar and unlike what was previously done at McAfee. And not only that, to be able to execute that through the channel. And one of the things and one of the areas that we had strong relationships with was in the telco space. And so really getting a lot of telco partners to bring this SaaS security solution of block and spam and email into the telco networks for their customers. And so we were able to do that globally across the world with partners in each of the different geographies in each of the different countries. And so not only did we get that chance to learn how to do that across different cultures in different languages, but also different currencies and how each one of those do business differently. And so that was a great opportunity for us to work together.
Absolutely, and just to add on to what Rodel said, this was a time there was a point in time when I was a co-product owner, as it were, with one other person, and then I became the only product manager for the SaaS endpoint protection product. And if you remember, we had 1 year where we were doing so great. It may have been before the MXLogic merger, but we were doing so great that we decided at a portfolio level to move the funding towards another product in the portfolio that needed a lot more attention. So I found myself with a product that had done extremely well, but with no funding and no team to work on new features to stay competitive. So this telco route to market actually saved the product that year until we got funded again the following year. And I have, like you said, really fond memories of that, because it was a collective, how do we make this product successful with a funding strap situation, leveraging established go-to-market paths that we had. And at the time, the telco go-to-market and this marketplace concept was unique. It's not so unique anymore, but it was very unique then. And like you were saying, I think we had telco partners all over the world. We learned so much through that. And I think, yeah, I agree. That was like definitely a really, really strong memory from our time together.
And I think that too is a lesson learned, right, for expansion beyond sort of the U.S. market into these international markets, to be able to leverage technology that they hadn't been exposed to just yet. So to be able to take that to the next step obviously requires a lot more of back office work, language and translation and currency and buying mechanisms are all different. And so making that leap to get into additional foreign markets is a big leap for many a product out there.
No, absolutely. And I think I want to actually touch upon that a little bit more. Maybe we're diving deep into this already. For me, a big cultural learning was actually when we went to Japan. If you remember, right? Like I've actually been to Japan 3 times with McAfee, I think. And we're still trying to plan our personal trip to go climb Fuji right now, but then that hasn't happened yet. But there, the big cultural thing was the strategic relationships and how the Japanese market operates, as in when they have that relationship established, it's kind of like a long-term deal. but they need to first trust you and build that relationship. Can you touch upon that a little bit more from your experience working in that geography?
Yeah, most definitely, and I think that was probably one of the greatest experiences, to actually build relationship and trust. And I think that goes so far aside from the technology, but being able to understand their culture, them understanding ours, how each other does business, and being able to translate that into them doing business with their customers. And without that relationship building and without that partnership, there's no way that we would have been successful in that market had we tried to do that on our own. And it required the relationships that we had with the partners and the partnership that we had to be able to reach those customers in their market.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that was an interesting one. The other one that was interesting for me was when we went to Israel. I don't know if we went together, but I certainly went to Israel, where we had one of our telco partners in the area. And that was an interesting experience overall. Just even like the cultural aspect is so important. And I think people often think in bits and bytes. It's so much more than bits and bytes when it comes to long-term success with products.
100%. Yeah.
And I think just understanding and respecting each other's culture goes a long way to establishing that relationship. So, all right, tell me about a SaaS. Well, you and I have always worked in SaaS. So let's talk about a B2B enterprise SaaS product that you have personally been responsible for either starting, building, growing, or finding a new like I know we already talked about one. Talk about one where you influenced the direction of that product, and why is that a special product for you?
Yeah, I chuckle when we talk about SaaS because when we were talking about that product that we had launched together many years ago, we were taking the time to actually educate the market on SaaS.
Yeah.
Customers had no concept of running software, enterprise software that they had in the cloud.
Mhm.
And they had no concept of that. And so here we are at that time educating the market about this delivery of capability is not tethered to the corporate network, or in the case of the example that we had in Japan, the telcos network.
Mhm.
And so that takes us back some 25 years ago. And you look sort of over the course of the technology revolutions since then with mobile and the cloud. And currently, we're at the cusp of, I think, the next great industry revolution with the advent of AI. And interestingly enough, AI, machine learning, it's been around for decades.
Absolutely.
But by leveraging the large language models, it has put generative AI in the hands of the layperson or the frontline workers at any given company and organizations. And that capability is not left in the back office to the data scientists to bring that information together. And so I've been at the forefront most recently at Microsoft to bring Copilot into the Microsoft suite of solutions and M365 and Teams. And it's been profound over the course of the last year and a half. We are here. And while we've provided technology and enabled the partner ecosystem, it's been amazing to see the use cases that are applied at customers to help drive that productivity. And I think from a channel perspective, that's another area, another aspect of launching the technology, because not only do you have to get customers understanding and how the technology and how to use it and how to take advantage of it, you also have to arm the partners to be able to do so that they can carry that message forward, not only from a sales and messaging perspective, but also from a technology implementation and integration, and for that matter, a security perspective. So you've got technology providers and partners who are out there who are now trying to integrate this new technology into services that they deliver to their customers. And so bringing that to bear, not only at the customer level, but at the partner level, has been pretty significant. And
Yeah. And can you tell me a little bit about how ready the partner ecosystem is? I know I'm asking in a general way, but the partner ecosystem, how ready is it for the changes that have come about with, I would say, Gen AI becoming more mainstream,
yeah,
right? Whether we realize it or not, all of us are using it in some way, shape, or form at this point, or in fact, like AI as a general thing, we're using it more commonly now. So, how ready is the partner ecosystem for something like this? And are there some best practices you have developed or employed that enables and empowers this partner ecosystem for how the technology is changing?
yeah, I think, it's the classic case of Jeff Moore's crossing the chasm, right? In many cases, for example, employees of companies are familiar with the likes of ChatGPT at the consumer level for information that's publicly available on the internet. And I think where AI in the B2B sense is being implemented is things like Microsoft and Copilot, and things that Google is doing, and things that Salesforce is doing to embed AI capability into their products itself that then their customers are using. And I would say that we're probably still at the early adoption phase, right? In crossing the chasm, taking that into the mass majority of users is still a big leap. And that's where partners are really going to carry that forward to get that usage and adoption by users at companies who aren't going to adopt technology as quickly, right? There's still a lot of fear and uncertainty around the use of AI, and you look at it from a legal sense, or an HR sense, or a healthcare sense, right? There's still a lot of data security that need to be put in place, a lot of compliance, and some of those best practices aren't even foundationally implemented yet for a company to then take on, overlaying AI capability across their data structure and the data and information that they have within their four walls as their organization. And so I think business practices from a partner perspective are going to help propel that, going from the early adopters into the mass majority next. And I think, too, partners themselves are having to learn the technology as well.
Yeah.
Right? So they themselves have to learn and be enabled on how to leverage the technology that exists, implementing that into their processes and their services, whether it's doing a security assessment or an AI assessment or a readiness for a customer. Are they ready? And they have to do that themselves, right? They've got to determine, are they capable of delivering that, in knowing what the use cases are that are actually going to provide benefit to their customers and the employees at the companies whom they serve.
Yeah, yeah, that totally makes sense. And I think you hit upon a very key point, which is they have every part of this ecosystem needs to learn what is AI, what is Gen AI. Gen AI, like, Chat GPT, everyone now knows. But beyond that, like, for people that are building products, it's a different lens with which we look at some of these technologies, right? Like, we're looking at, hey, what's the model that best suits my use case? I mean, I'm like a big advocate for saying we shouldn't be inventing new use cases. This is tools with which we can solve known use cases better and faster. and more precise, and things that were done so manually or rule based
Yep.
now can be done. And now with these agentic flows, you're creating these mini autonomous systems.
That's
I
right.
mean, you remember, I mean, like, I don't know what CRM we used when we worked together, but like, I've been in many companies where, some of the best known names in CRM are used. We don't have to name names, but, and, if you talk to any salesperson, the salesperson is so highly focused on building the top of the funnel and moving it through the funnel stages to a deal,
That's right.
that all this work that goes into making sure the information is updated as it's going through the funnel is the biggest pain in the wrong place for them, right?
Yeah,
And if like, imagine with agentic flows, if that can be made easier, that's really turning well-known, well-established enterprise products on their heads.
that's right. That's right.
So I think your message about every part of the ecosystem needs to get up to date on how this technology is changing how they do their jobs is, I think, very critical. So
And I
thank
think
you.
you hit it on the head, right? It's the existing flows that are there today that you might be able to optimize and improve efficiencies with the use of agentic AI and generative AI for that matter, right? And so that's all to improve productivity today, but I think about what could get created next.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, managing deal flow and getting and accelerating that to from pipeline generation all the way to closed one, for example, right? Accelerating that process. But as a company, what other services, what other technology, what other capabilities by leveraging this technology that they will then create next? And that's the really exciting thing about what's in the future for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's talk about what are some key metrics as a partnership person, as a channel person, that you track to determine the success of products.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think launching new products is all about getting new customers and increasing the number of users. And gosh, look at the release of Chat GPT and even most recently DeepSeek AI to have reached 100 million downloads in such a rapid pace, unlike any other technology revolution that has shown up. And even most recently, their monthly site visits for OpenAI, 4.7 billion since January. DeepSeek at 268 since January.
Wow.
And so I think while selling licenses, getting eyeballs is great, but really the next key metric is around actual usage.
Hmm.
Because, right, what's the point of having tech for tech's sake if it isn't solving a problem for the user or, like we said earlier, improving productivity for companies? So usage then becomes really key, not only daily, monthly, average usage, but also as a percentage of sold licenses. So
Yep.
going back to that example, you sell a company 5,000 licenses and only 100 people are using it. Well, at some point in time, the CFO is going to say, are we really getting our investment back on our return back on that investment? And so that becomes really, really key and ends up giving you visibility as a leading indicator to renewals or even churn metrics that help customers realize the benefits of that technology. And not by providing that information to the partners who end up being the trusted advisor for those customers, they can help identify who the pockets are at the customers where okay, they're driving a pilot with 100 users out of those 5,000. How do they then get to the other 4,900 users across that company, across all the various organizations, whether it's in production and engineering and finance, HR, marketing, sales, all of those details, so that they get full advantage of that. And then, of course, for the users who they are working with, identifying not only they could run now, but what's all the new integrations that they could do, or the new capability or new technologies that they might be able to bring to market as a result. So I think that's where partners really come into play, and some of the metrics that are at play there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, interestingly, I was recently talking to someone about pricing, and that's something that we've worked very closely between product and partnerships and like two-tier channel. How do you think pricing? I mean, this is you can. If, I'm sure you've thought about this a lot. How should pricing change? Right? It's gone from we thought we were very clever when we did bundles and we did, hey, you buy everything from the marketplace and you get like this bundle discount or whatever. But now, to your point, based on utilization, so that the CFO is not coming and saying, "Are we really getting a return on our investment?" How do you think our pricing models will evolve with this? I'm already seeing a lot of utility-based or usage-based
That's
metrics,
right.
right? So how do you think? What should we anticipate, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think the whole notion of consumption-based or usage-based pricing really is paramount in the use of AI. And a lot of that too is because of the cost components associated with it,
Yeah, yeah,
right? A generative AI search today is something like 866% more, uses more energy than a traditional search had required in the past, because it's searching across a lot of data, right? And so there's a lot more compute that results behind that. So the trick from a usage perspective is to be able to recoup those cost of goods sold for running that query, running that application,
yeah,
and then still making enough room and margin for the partners to be able to build their business behind it, right? Because a partner, again, for technology's sake, they're not going to drive technology's sake unless they're in the business of building their business. And so when you look at a partner community and a partner ecosystem, for every dollar of revenue that is sold for the technology and the product itself by a manufacturer and a vendor, they're probably making 3 times that just in the services that they're wrapping around that technology.
yeah.
And so you have to make room in the margin for the solution itself, while also allowing them to deliver value around that solution to be able to take that to the marketplace. And I think that's going to be very apparent in modifying the pricing models for customers as a result.
Yeah, no, as you were saying that, I was thinking, I mean, perhaps the VARs we talk about, maybe the VARs maybe they offer some sort of prompt engineering package, because God knows that's the hardest thing to get right, to get the value out of that chat GPT or whichever LLM you're using. That prompt engineering is important. So if they have like something very specific to that particular set of products or whatever, that they can offer as a service or as a package, maybe that's kind of where they start to add value.
That's right.
So very interesting. It's just like the whole thing is so exciting because it changes everything we do.
It does.
Right?
It does.
So, okay, all right. So let's now talk about some of the challenges, right? With any function related to product. We all have our top challenges when it comes to making the product successful. So from your perspective, from a partnership slash channel perspective, what has been the biggest challenge you faced in ensuring the success of a product?
I think, Smitha, the beauty of SaaS and cloud delivered solutions is the pace by which we're able to implement changes to respond to customer feedback and to respond to the market. And I think the challenge is prioritizing the litany of those enhancement requests that come in that essentially will yield the greatest returns, right? And I think ultimately that's the art of product management, to be able to pull those pieces together and get the right solutions in place that are going to meet the majority of customers, who's going to create the greatest amount of value for them to pay the most amount of money as a result, right? And I think that constant change is coming so rapidly that, going back to that adoption curve of managing that change for customers, is very, very challenging, let alone through the partner ecosystem. You have to have a regular drumbeat to keep everyone abreast of the latest and greatest changes. So it's imperative to keep a standard cadence of communication updates often and through multiple means, whether you're doing product announcements, webinars, social media, landing pages. By the time you've enabled the partner on a certain capability and a certain feature or a certain program or a certain incentive, they've taken that and are now launching that into the marketplace, right?
Yep.
And on the heels of that, the vendor is coming in with the next set of new fandangled programs, incentives, enhancements, capabilities. And so being able to time that on a consistent basis is very, very challenging. And so, again, having a regular cadence of you're going to do this once a month, you're going to do this once a quarter, you're going to do this every 6 months, to be able to allow the downstream partners, and for that matter, the customers, to digest all of the changes that are coming at them at a very, very fast pace. And interestingly enough, right, you look at mobile phones. So often, right, we're asked to click on you've got an update to an application on your phone, and all of a sudden the screen looks different, and now you have to quickly navigate and figure out, I used to do it this way, now I need to do it this way.
Right.
So much so, amplified even more in the B2B case, where you're dealing with many enterprises and many end users. And so allowing the downstream entities to be able to digest those systems and launch them into the marketplace is very key. And I think also very, very challenging, because many a partner that's out there are not only doing that for one vendor, but they may be doing it for multiple vendors. And so to be able to keep up as a partner on all of the products that come from a single manufacturer and all the manufacturers whom they support, to be able to represent that for their customers as the trusted advisor, that's a tall order for the partners.
Yeah, for sure. As you were saying that, there are 2 or 3 things that came to mind. One is the timeline for go to market. Remember the time you had the rule of thumb of like T minus 90 days, like 3 months before launch, let's get all the ducks in a row to get this going. Now that's probably compressed. And for the partner, that's coming at a compressed, faster pace from multiple vendors. And then they have to turn around. And so the question there is, do some of the traditional or the classic marketing principles, channel marketing, partnership management, do those principles still remain the same in this evolving, faster, time compressed world, how does that change?
Absolutely. I mean, the fundamentals are still there and are still required. And I think one of the biggest challenges for partners is getting the information at the same time that the market does.
Yeah.
And so they are trying to digest all that information from the manufacturer while at the same time having to field questions from customers about that launch. So, in that accelerated view, the ability to give partners advance notice of the capability of the pricing of the models, all of those things ahead of time is very, very key. And I think the manufacturers who do that will satisfy many, many of their partners as a result. Obviously, there's lots to balance there when it comes to new product launches because of maintaining sort of the launch nature of it. But even in a T minus 90, if you were to give a partner a week's notice, a week in advance, they have to make changes to their systems as well to order, to
Correct.
quote, to process a delivery. And so giving them that advance notice is absolutely key to the success in ensuring that when it hits the market in stride, as opposed to a delay through the partner community because they have more work that they need to do to be able to support a new product launch.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm a firm believer of like the fundamentals don't change, right? But like you have to adapt to the ecosystem that's changing
For sure.
while you maintain those fundamentals. Let me ask you a provocative question in that regard. I've been noodling on, there's a lot of new companies that have product-led growth, right? So the products are what are leading the growth for the company up to a certain point, and sometimes even beyond. When it comes to B2B large enterprise type products, do you believe that we'll see a time when either the direct sales force or maybe the partner ecosystem is going to change in how influential they are for product success
You
in
know,
the world of product-led growth? That's the context.
yeah, I mean, in those scenarios, it goes back to, I think, the overall strategy for that product company. Are they going to drive sales themselves? To a lot of an extent, you have to perfect that sales expertise yourself with that product solution before you can get to the partners.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, an organization is unable to reach the entire total addressable market with their own sales force,
Hmm.
right? And so, how are they going to get to other parts of the market or other verticals, specific verticals, where many of these partners have that expertise and capability and relationships that oftentimes a partner first strategy might actually be an approach for a product company whereby they're going to go through the channel to be able to get to the end customers.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to the overall strategy, market segmentation from an enterprise perspective, all the way down to SMB. What's the best route to market to get to those end customers? It may be direct, but it also very well could be the partner community. And I think that's going to be key to significant growth that customers couldn't do. I'm sorry, that vendors couldn't do on their own.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Definitely something for our audience to pay attention to, because this is we're at this exciting time when there's a lot that's changing, but a lot that's not changing. And how do you balance both? And how do you leverage the right tools for the right type of strategy, to execute on the right type of strategy? So that's really great. All right, we're now on to a special topic. So I have a set of special topics I use with my guests. I'm thinking of two for you. You pick which one you want to talk about. Um, Leadership during chaos or being an ally. Um,
Ah,
that Pick whichever one you want, and tell me about when you've experienced this, or when you've done something in terms of either leadership in chaos or being an ally um, in the workforce. Tell me about one of those experiences.
absolutely. And both of those concepts are near and dear to my heart. Being a minority, um, as an Asian, it's learning and understanding multiple perspectives, and especially in a global world and a global environment, doing business in other cultures. I think that is pretty significant, and of course, the diversity of opinions and perspectives is really, really paramount. I would say, leadership in chaos. I would say we're probably right there right now in the midst of this industry change. Call it chaos with the availability of Gen AI and agentic AI. Every vendor is looking at integrating solutions to take advantage of this technology within their own products for customers, but also how they're doing that internally for their own employees. And so, um, not only is there just that technology revolution, but gosh, organizations are changing as well. What does that look like? And I know even for me, looking back at my history and my time at McAfee, we were a private company that got acquired by McAfee as a public company,
Correct.
who then got acquired by Intel, a
Yes.
larger public company,
Yep.
who then Intel said, you know what, we need to spin this out because they're a hardware company and software company. Made it very, very challenging to bring those two together. And so that got spun out to private equity. And then, of course, within private equity, that got merged, or even split, consumer versus enterprise. And then the enterprise portion of the business merged with another one. So all of that results in chaos for the organization and for the employees. And so my career has allowed me not only to see the technology revolutions that are out there that are disrupting technology as we know it today, but also organizationally what that looks like with acquisitions and mergers and divestitures. There's a lot that goes on in the psyche of the employees for that company, and let alone for the customers and the partners having to manage through all of that change. And
Yep.
just like anything else, I think communication is key to all of that, right? It's keeping all of the constituencies informed of what the implications are and what does it mean going forward and what their place in that looks like. And I think by settling the dust, if you will, settling the storm, settling the chaos, bringing that level of confidence to the conversation will help smooth out that chaos, if you will.
Absolutely. Golden words. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, as you know, I didn't stay through all of those events, but I stayed until I think we were what would we call the software pillar in the like some three or four pillars of Intel at some point. And I left at that time. And then I kept track, obviously, of all the rest of the stuff that
Sure. Yeah.
happened
Yeah.
after. But yeah, there are some lessons to be learned from all of those situations that it's going to repeat. This is not just a one-time event. It's going to happen again and again over one's career.
Yeah.
And to our audience, just taking away these lessons that we have learned, that we have shared on this podcast is hopefully useful to them. So, all right. We talked about AI, Gen AI throughout this conversation, so that's not a special topic for you anymore. Let's talk about any book recommendations, any books that you love that have helped you in your career, either in sort of like for your own leadership style or in with products. What are your favorite books that you would recommend to our audience?
Yeah, you know what? I just recently got through this one last year, and it was Measure What Matters from John Doerr in leveraging OKRs. And if the audience here isn't familiar with OKRs, objectives and key results. So going back to your question earlier about metrics
Yeah.
and challenges, really, I think establishing those OKRs helps provide a framework to define what those objectives are that you seek to achieve when you're launching new products, building a new business, expanding into new markets. And then what are those key results of the top priority goals that you're going to attain with specific measurable actions within the associated set timeframe? So I think that encapsulates a lot of the conversations that we talked about during this session. And, I think the book goes into how it was employed at companies like Intel, some 30, 40 years ago, and recently at Google, Intuit, YouTube, and for that matter, even at Microsoft. So it's a great tool. It's a great framework. It's a great methodology to keep you grounded on focusing in on what will matter the most and where you can have the greatest impact. Because there's a lot of things that a product can do or a company can do, and the OKR methodology, I think, helps you get focus in that area.
Yeah, great recommendation. I hope the audience takes note of it. Rodel, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this podcast. I'm glad we reconnected and we discovered more common ground after all those years after we worked together about like mountains and so on. So I'm so happy. Thank you for your time. It's been a blast reliving some of our past working history, but also just like learning from you on go-to-market in general, which is so important for the success of a product. Thank you again for your time.
Absolutely. You bet, Smith. Great to connect, and look forward to hearing the output from and feedback from your audience.
Sounds great.